And we welcome in the new Cubs president of baseball operations, Jed Hoyer. Jed, it's Brian Kenny. Congratulations to you.
Thank you, Brian. I appreciate it.
Jed, again, you just saw on the resume, you've been there a long time. You've been doing that, part of the championship club. How different is your job now?
I think it's always different when you're the number one decision maker. I had that role in San Diego. I'm proud of what we did there. But ultimately, coming to Chicago, my job was to do the best I could to support Theo. Obviously, I made some decisions and he gave me a lot of leeway. But it's different when you're making the final decision on everything. And so I think that's the biggest difference now. As far as my day-to-day, I'm still working with the same great people. I think that's kind of the advantage of continuity. But that said, that at the end of the day, Theo was going to make the final decision on things. And now that responsibility, lies with me.
What do you do now, Jed, as far as your front office staff seems like it would be pretty seamless transition, as good as it gets, really. What do you prioritize when you try to build out your staff? Like what's one area that now that you can make the call on, you'd say, I think I need a little more of this?
Yeah. Well, I think one of the hard parts is, obviously, with Theo leaving and me moving up, it kind of leaves a void in that GM role. And it's a challenging role to fill. And I think it's one that I do feel strongly that I want to fill from the outside. We have a lot of wonderful people here that a lot of them will be promoted, but I do feel like fresh ideas, fresh perspective, I think is really valuable in that spot. And so I am going to go outside, and it's hard. One of the things I know I can't find in that role is someone that I've known for 19 years. You have that kind of trust and ease of life with, and so I think that that'll be a new relationship. I'm not going to find someone that I've been with as long as Theo and I've been together. But I think in that role, you really have to trust the person and have a sense that person is going to be a great teammate to you and a great partner, because you're going to be in really high stress, high pressure situations together. And you have to know that person is going to be with you and have your back, and that you're going to enjoy that partnership every single day.
Jed, obviously you've got 4 foundation players going into their contract year. How do you even approach it? Like, where do you start? I'm not asking you what you're going to do. Maybe you don't know yet. But where do you even start to approach it, to either dig into the player, approach the player, or decide who stays, who might not be able to stay?
Yeah, that's a great question, and we're fortunate. We've had this group of players together for now 6 years. They're great players, and they've done a lot in Chicago. I think that the truth is that, we won the division last year. I know it ended poorly, against the Marlins. That they beat us, and they played well, and they deserve that. But it ended poorly for us. And, that kind of left a bitter taste in people's mouth. But we did have a really successful season. We won the division. And we did it without a lot of these guys, playing like they usually do. And so, the challenge is that, we do have some contractual situations coming up. We have, limited service time on some of these guys, but ultimately we have a really good team and we want to compete, and that's our focus. So, it's a little bit of a puzzle to put together. I think, as we've said very publicly, we know that we can't keep this entire team together in 22 and beyond. I think realistically, when these players reach free agency, we're not going to be able to keep every one of them. And we've known that for a number of years, but as it relates to 2021, I don't think we've made any specific decisions at this point, and we're open-minded, and ultimately we feel like we have a really good team that we can bring back and hopefully compete for another division title.
It sounds like you're inclined to ride this out for next year. You think you're pretty good and keep these guys and not start tinkering with it.
Yeah, the way I phrased it yesterday was, I think in this job, you always have to have one eye on the present and one eye on the future. And how much you're focused on either one of those sort of depends on where you are in the life cycle of your team and with the service time of your team. And, I would probably admit that I do think we have to sort of train a keener eye on the future right now than maybe we have over the last few years. Realistically, we know we're at the end of that service time clock. So, certainly our desire is to compete, but we can't do that we can't ignore the future. We know that we have to have focus on that. And that's just kind of the reality of our situation.
You guys, of course, did the massive teardown But that seems like a long time ago. Is that the way to go now in baseball, to do the rebuild, or is it, refueling the plane while it's still in the air?
Yeah, I think that the rebuild, obviously that was a strategic decision that we went through in 2011 and 12. And, for us, it made sense given, where we were with every factor. And candidly, I think we didn't expect to probably rebuild quite as deeply as we did at the time, but that's how it worked out. And we're really glad that and fortunate that we did that. But I do think that that method has been copied a number of times since then. I think that method is probably much more difficult to do now than it was, to do 9 years ago. I think we were very fortunate with our timing of that rebuild. So no, I don't think that method is exactly the way to go. I think there are many more kind of hybrid methods, I would say, that you can do. I think that full teardown that we went through is something we did it strategically, but I'm not sure that's the right method in 2020.
Jed, we've been kicking this around, especially if there's a playoff team added or two. Does that make that 82 to 87 win window much more viable? Where that used to be nowhere, now it's like, no, we can hover there, get a little better and get in the playoffs, and then maybe do something in the playoffs.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see if we continue to add playoff teams. It'll be interesting to see how that does impact rebuilds or impact those strategic decisions that teams have to make, because baseball has always been a team with very few playoff teams, and getting into the dance and having a chance was a challenging thing. And now if that's opened up a little bit, it is going to impact how teams view, to your point, an 86, 87 win team, because that team may well have a shot in the playoffs. So I think you're right. I think that will impact team building strategies going forward.
It will be interesting. Again, I know there's a lot of things going on there, but for now, Jed, congratulations on ascending into that position. All that success in the years past as well. Well earned, and we look forward to speaking to you again.